Welcome back inside the secret Gibby headquarters for another edition of Gibby's Football Podcast. It's the penultimate edition of Gibby's Football Podcast. We are recapping the Super Bowl, also known as the big game, this past Sunday, and I figured, well, we need to get this man on to talk about the Super Bowl because I know he was watching it, and he's been a guest on this show multiple times. He's helped me out a lot with this show in terms of whenever I needed a last-minute guest, when I have terrible organizational skills to try and organize stuff for the episodes. But Danny T, once again in this week to help me out, to help recap the Super Bowl. Danny, it's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. How are you doing?
Bad, always happy to help, and I'm very disappointed in you, man. You know, going to broadcasting school, you know that you are going to be flagged and that this is going to be taken down YouTube with the first word that you threw in there.
Yeah, I know.
Because the NFL, they do crack down on that. You know,
yeah.
It is the big game and it is nothing else because we are not Bell Media. So
that's right.
It might be the last episode of Gibby's Football Podcast.
Yeah, if you notice that all of a sudden my Twitter has been deactivated and my podcast page is down, you'll know why. Is because I made I've said it on previous episodes of the show, but I'm like I'm not worried if the NFL comes into my basement apartment and tries to tackle me and take me down and serve me with a cease and desist. I'm here to talk about
all your
everything.
20 listeners.
Yeah, exactly. All 20 of them, every single one of them. They will care about that stuff. So, nonetheless, we are going to call it the Super Bowl. We are going to call it the big game. We'll use it intermittently, but yes, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the
Take
shield.
on the shield.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure I'll stand a chance against the Shield and their mighty group of lawyers, I assume. But
that's it. Your face is going to be on every Walmart in there. You know, you don't
yes.
serve this man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will not be allowed at any NFL stadium from here on out. My face, as you mentioned, will be on the wanted posters. Is like, do not let this man in. I will have to. Maybe I'll have to change my identity based on how everything goes. But
so, what do you think? Is the stadium in Denver going to be Mile High, or are they going to change it to Walmart Arena?
Oh boy, Walmart Arena. I mean, they would really just like out of all the original names out there, Walmart Arena. That would really, like, you know, imagine if you're like on a team and you're trying to strike some fear, right? It's like, you know, they talk about Lambeau Field, right? It's like, oh, we got to go to Lambeau Field or
Soldier Field,
right? Texas Stadium back in the day. It's like, oh, you know where we have to go to? Walmart Arena. Oh, that strikes fear into the heart of the opponent.
That's it.
My God, it's yeah, I do think they'll try to incorporate Walmart somehow, some way into their name. I don't think it'll be called Arena, but
maybe Walmart Field, Walmart Stadium, you know, something like that.
What's one of their slogans there, Walmart? I haven't shopped in Walmart in forever, so
they're all about the rollback. So
yeah, Rollback Stadium. There you go.
Yeah,
Rollback Stadium, and it's just the big smiley face that they always use for their.
That's it. The NFL marketing department. They got to call us. You know, we're on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't serve us a cease and desist for saying Super Bowl.
Hire us.
Yeah, hire us so that we can help with your marketing. You know, I mean, we're really on the cutting edge here. But yeah, it's. Oh, what a way to kickstart this episode of Gibby's Football Podcast. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl this past Sunday and even talk about the halftime show, which I was shocked to see some of the reactions to the halftime show. We'll break down some of that in a moment, and also the Super Bowl. But hey, let's catch up on what's going on in the life of Danny T. I mean, first of all, did you catch the Super Bowl live, or did you catch it?
No, we went to the Super Bowl party there in town. We have moved to the Gnomes, as you can see behind me. He is now down in the living room.
Okay.
So that pig is just all by its lonesome with its candle. But we did actually secure a venue there.
Nice.
The fiance and we are getting married. We have a date and a venue, so. It is June 22nd, 2024, and Gibby, I'm sure that you will receive a save the date there in May. So,
I love it. I can't wait.
No.
I will be anxiously awaiting by the mailbox. But
all right, sounds good. We're going to the Lock March Golf and Country Club, where the Ottawa Senators play golf.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Good stuff. So that's something to look forward to as well. So you mentioned you were at a Super Bowl party. What was the go-to food items there? I know everybody has their sort of go-to. Some do the pizza, some do the chili. What was the kind of the go-to items there at the Super Bowl party?
Yeah, so we had the pizzas from Pizza because they're cheap AF. Shout out to Pizza.
Yeah.
Can't get a large pizza anywhere for $21 except Pizza.
Yep. That's right.
We had the housewife dip, which is the cheese and the sour cream, and I don't know if you've ever seen all that salsa mix. Ooh. I don't know what it's called, but every place I go, all the ladies make it, so I call it the housewife dip.
Works well.
Yeah.
But
and of course, we had the chips and all that. So
yeah, there you go.
And Mr. Puffs.
Of course. I mean, you got to get the Mr. Puffs in there. I used to do the Super Bowl party. In terms of like going to different Super Bowl parties, obviously with the move to Belleville, that's been a little bit different. So I was just kind of solo this year, which is nice sometimes because it's like, because the Super Bowl party, there's obviously the football fans like you and I where we're watching for the football, but then there are the other casual fans that are there. They're there
for the food.
Yeah, the food, the commercials as well, and the halftime show, everything else when it comes to the Super Bowl.
You didn't go to the mayor's house, huh?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. No, I was not invited. But maybe next year. We'll see.
If you're going to City Hall, then you should grill him on that. You'd be like, Mr. Mayor, how come I wasn't invited to your Super Bowl halftime show? My sources are telling me it was one of the best.
Yeah, I that's what I got to do next time. Although I will say, I mean, I was getting to know the previous mayor. And then, and the previous mayor is the owner of the Boston Pizza around here. And so maybe get that connection there. But he got voted out in the recent election. So I have not gotten a chance to to know the new mayor. So I think my invite also got lost in the mail.
Probably.
That's what probably
it makes sense.
Yeah. But so for me, it was just a solo viewing party. So don't have to worry about people being like, oh, you got to watch this commercial or you got to see this or anything like that. I could actually watch the game and break it down and see the film and whatever. I had I went with the chicken wings for myself, cooked up some chicken wings.
Honey garlic?
Honey garlic, absolutely. You got to do the honey garlic.
Only way to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, this is why I have you on the show. You're thinking clearly that you got the right thought process going. Honey garlic is the way to go. I like me some barbecue sauce. Don't get me wrong. And some of the different. I've tried some Thai sauce on there. That's fantastic. But honey garlic is absolutely the way to go.
I went out to Kelsey's for lunch the day of the Super Bowl, and they were like, "Yeah, we have half price wings today." And for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out until I sat down and I was eating. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's Super Bowl today. That makes sense.
Yeah, got to get rid of that wings inventory, you know what I mean? Try and get that out of the way. And that's certainly in high demand when it comes to the Super Bowl is the chicken wings. And so fortunately, I was able to find some chicken wings at the grocery store and got a couple bags of chips. So I went with the Doritos and the wavy chip, the wavy regular Lay's chip. Nothing too crazy.
With the onion dip.
Yeah, with the onion dip and got that going there, and got a couple things of Pepsi as well. So we were rocking the Super Bowl party, and so yeah, that was kind of the go-to there. And going into the Super Bowl now, I thought this was a really fun Super Bowl. I know that people will talk about the last call, and we'll break it down, the non-holding call for some, the holding call for others, including the guy who held. But overall, I thought the game was a lot of fun. I thought watching the Super Bowl that these were the two best teams playing against each other for the championship. I thought we saw the best of both teams in different scenarios. And I thought in terms of like years past, we've had a good Super Bowl in years past. We've had an all right Super Bowl. We had a downright terrible Super Bowl when it came to the Rams and the Patriots. But overall,
that one was hard to watch.
That was tough. I had to try and tell people that, again, another one that was a weird reaction at the time, but people were telling me, oh, this was a great defensive matchup. I was like, not really. The offense was like, for both teams, was kind of incompetent. I mean,
they just kept punting.
Exactly. It's like great defensive, work is like, the defense is clearly overpowering the offense. And in that game, I didn't think that was the case at all. I thought that both offenses just came out flat in that game, but that's a different Super Bowl. I thought for this one, I thought, again, we saw both teams at their best in certain scenarios. Obviously, some blunders in there, which we'll talk about. But I thought this was a really fun Super Bowl. What did you think of Super Bowl this year?
I thought it was fine. Kind of anticlimactic, because I went in there knowing that Kansas was going to win. And I knew, and I don't know if you've caught the stories, but the script leaked for the Super Bowl the week before.
Yeah.
And they had it scripted at, I believe it was 37-34, which was dangerously close to what they had.
Yeah. And I think they had the Eagles winning that in the initial script.
Yeah. But like the books were on it, because as soon as that came out, boom, you could that was the favorite score. So you were losing money as soon as you bet it, if you didn't bet it early.
Yeah.
If you didn't scour the internet for the script. So
yeah, I love how the script has just taken off. In the last couple of weeks, it's been hilarious. It's like I wish the script could do better for the Dallas Cowboys over the last couple of seasons. Had I known that it was being scripted like that, and this is the way the booking was going. To use some wrestling terminology, I probably wouldn't be a Cowboys fan, but nonetheless, I saw a leak of another script that it was going to be Bengals and Cowboys in next year's Super Bowl, with the Cowboys losing in the Super Bowl.
There you go.
Hanging on. Yeah, hanging on. We're still hanging on. That means we're getting past the divisional round next year. Let's go.
Woo-hoo,
I cannot wait. We're getting Mike McCarthy's play calls.
Dallas,
yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, Mike McCarthy's play calling, and that's why Rodgers wants to go, is because Mike McCarthy has the book again.
Mike McCarthy's there. He's a good old boy. He's good old Pittsburgh cop.
Oh yeah, exactly. But yeah, I thought that when it came to we'll just kind of go into the first half here, where I thought for the majority of the first half, especially in the second quarter, that the Philadelphia Eagles really just controlled the game.
They had a great game. Yeah, they had a great game plan, and they were just running the ball down their throat. But, old Spags has been here before, and he's no stranger to making adjustments. And he was just like, all right, well, let's go out. I spotted you 10 points, and, see if you can beat old Patty Mahomes. But alas, they could not. He is actually the first quarterback in 20 years to throw for less than 200 yards and win Super Bowl MVP.
Really? I didn't know that stat. That's
the other one would be the GOAT, Tom Brady.
Oh, there you go.
I believe in his 2002 Super Bowl.
That would make sense.
2003 Super Bowl.
Yeah. Was that the Super Bowl with Rams and with the Rams, or was that the one with because the Panthers was 04?
Yeah.
So I would
I think it was either it would either be the Rams or the Panthers. Probably the Panthers.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's an interesting stat there. Yeah. That first half, it was all about time of possession for the Eagles. They were doing a real good job of trying to limit the amount of time that Mahomes was on the field. And it worked out really well. I mean, Mahomes is we saw a little bit right on the first possession. I think people thought it was going to be a high-scoring game, and it ended up being a pretty high-scoring game at the end.
73 points, yeah.
Definitely. And so, but it kind of stalled out a little bit in a second for the Chiefs. With at the first drive, we saw Mahomes really targeting Kelsey a lot, and Kelsey still somehow, some way,
just finds a way to get open.
Yeah, just unbelievable. Everybody screaming at their television, how can you let that man be open so much?
I'd put 7 guys on Kelsey and let Mahomes beat you some other way.
Yeah, try and give him a shot against Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But yeah, in terms of the Chiefs offense, it's like they start out pretty good, and then there was a moment where they stalled out. They weren't really getting much momentum going. They were trying to establish the ground game with Isaiah Pacheco. He's been a guy who's been really stepping it up for the Chiefs.
He had a nice little season, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I expect to be the starting running back for the Chiefs next season. Even
Edwards-Helaire is gone.
Yeah. If Edwards-Helaire is like, a solid running back, like he's not going to light the world on fire, but he's a guy who could start for your team.
They had 5 running backs on their roster, I believe.
Yeah. So including Melvin Gordon. So congrats to him on getting a Super Bowl.
And did they release Ronald Jones or did they still have Rojo?
I think they released Ronald Jones. I didn't see him on the roster. So they got if you include Sky Moore, which I don't.
No, he's a receiver.
There's Pacheco. There's Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, and Melvin Gordon. Yeah. So nonetheless. It was very much Eagles all throughout the first half. Jalen Hurts, there was some questions on, last time Jalen Hurts was in a big stage like that was in the national championship for Alabama. Obviously, he didn't have a great game. He got pulled for Tua Tagovailoa, and we obviously saw where that led to with Hurts transferring out of Alabama, going to Oklahoma to play under Lincoln Riley. And who I'm shocked still hasn't gone up to the NFL ranks quite yet. Lincoln Riley.
I don't think there's any need to. Unless you're going for somebody who is going to give you that huge payday, like we saw Sean Payton get with all the control. Like right now, Lincoln Riley, well taken care of by USC. They've got deep pockets. You can have anybody in the country. I don't see any reason for you to leave college. You're probably making as much as an NFL coach, if not more.
Yeah, totally. And you probably have a lot more control as well over the program as a coach, is obviously when it comes to recruiting and all that and the college ranks. But nonetheless, Eagles were really, especially I thought Hurts was quite impressive throughout the game, even into the third and fourth quarter. But I think the one play that's not getting talked about enough in terms of how much of a factor it kind of played into the end was the fumble return from Nick Bolton from Hurts, where it's just the one momentary lapse somehow, some way. I guess it was scripted that way.
The script had him dropping the ball. That's it.
that's all you could really say about that. But Bolton returning it down, and I think it kind of established a narrative, to use the script terminology, that while the Eagles, especially in the first half, were getting a lot established on the ground game, also throwing the ball as well. It's just those key critical mistakes that kind of came back to bite them in the end. And that kind of started off with that Nick Bolton fumble return for a touchdown. And really, if it wasn't for that fumble return, I don't think the Chiefs would be in it as much heading into the second half as they were. In 18 of the 19 games that the Eagles played prior to the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback on the field. Yep.
Outside of the game where he was on the field with Aaron Rodgers, he had to beat Daniel Jones 3 times. He had to beat Kirk Cousins in prime time.
Yeah.
The Eagles played nobody all year. So were they the best team? I don't know. I think San Francisco was a far superior team to them. But Jalen Hurts, he did ball out, and with every pass completion, all he heard was ching, ching, ching.
Yeah, he's gonna get a hefty contract.
Oh yeah,
extension.
he's got the Brinks truck getting ready to be backed up to his house. Who do you think signs first? Because we got 3 quarterbacks here that are up for contracts and 3 big time quarterbacks. So it might be like the Dez, Julio, AJ Green situation where they all kind of just waited for one to sign.
Yeah.
So we got Jalen Hurts, we got Herbert and Burrow. Yeah. All up for contracts this season. Who do you think signs first?
Great question. I'm thinking Burrow. I think Burrow seems like a guy that just wants to kind of get it done right away and move on and continue to to perform on the field. So I think Burrow will be the one that gets it done first. But you are right in the sense that once that one domino falls, everything else kind of comes into play. And
they're just going to be those 3 Spider-Mans staring off. You know, like,
yeah, exactly. What I do know is that they're all going to be in line for some big time money to be made, especially Hurts and Burrow. I think Herbert. I think
you always take as much money as you get.
Totally.
But the Bengals are going to be losing Joe Mixon. No big deal. If you do have to replace a position, it's going to be the running back.
Yep.
You know, keep Higgins, keep Chase, obviously.
Yep.
So maybe we see them jump up a little bit in the draft to go get like a Bijan Robinson or maybe losing his name here, Zach. The other running back,
the other one that's in the draft.
There are a couple really good backs coming out of this draft. It is a lineman and a running back draft. The quarterbacks are okay, but you go out and get yourself a running back, and this applies to the New York Giants as well. Barkley, take a hike. You know, you got a lot of wear and tear on that body. Joe Mixon has touched the ball a lot, so.
Yeah,
it's time to move on. So we'll see a new starting running back in Cincinnati, and it's not going to be Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I say I saw some people saying maybe T. Higgins is the one that could get traded out of because you can get some value out of T. Higgins if you wanted to try and get some.
If you wanted to trade him, you still got a year left on his deal, so you know
exactly. And so I by the way, the other running back you may be looking at is Jahmyr Gibbs.
Maybe, yeah.
But just kind of looking at some of the running back rankings here. But Bijan Robinson is a guy that I think a lot of people are looking at as a like if the running back if the equivalent here. How am I trying to say this?
Well, I've watched a lot of tape on this guy, and he is the most well-rounded running back to come out of college since Zeke.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like if he was wide receiver, he would be like a top 10 pick easy.
I never thought that Barkley was like all of that coming out of college. Like everybody was bullish on him, but I was like, you know, at the top end he'll be Reggie Bush, you know. Yeah. And I still think Reggie Bush had a better career than Saquon Barkley has had at this point in time.
And the thing is like I think Barkley peak in the NFL is better than Bush. But the problem with Barkley is that, as we mentioned all the time with him, is again
he was never on the field for his peak, you know.
Exactly, and so when at his peak, I believe he's absolutely better than Bush. But I wouldn't disagree with you there. But that's going to be something to kind of keep an eye on. But kind of going back to the Jalen Hurts stuff, where it's like he's going to be in line for a big contract. He had a great game. If the Eagles won this game, he's the Super Bowl MVP, easy, hands down. And also some good games coming from Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. So they utilized the weapons that they had. I think the big thing that was the killer for the Eagles kind of going into the second half was their defense just let them down. No sacks at all throughout the entirety of the game.
This goes back to they didn't play anybody.
Exactly. You know? And it was hyped up the defensive line as a line that could go in and at least pressure the quarterback.
No, if you and me were calling the defense for the Eagles and we had to play Daniel Jones 3 times, I think we'd have the number 1 defense as well, you know?
It's fair. Exactly. Yeah, Daniel Jones and an assortment of guys that play wide receiver on their team.
And this is going to bite Arizona in the ass.
When it comes to
they got fooled. I think they got fooled by the numbers.
Oh yeah. Because their defensive coordinator, their Jonathan Gannon. I was going to call him Rich Gannon, the former quarterback. Jonathan Gannon named the new head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, and obviously Shane Steichen named the new head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. So
we'll see what Steichen can do. He's been dubbed the quarterback whisperer here. What he's been able to do the last 2 years or last 3 years, obviously working with Jalen Hurts and before that Justin Herbert. So
yeah. He's when you're able to put together 2 talents like that of high caliber, you're going to get some looks, especially in a league that's always trying to find that next offensive guru to try and take them over the top.
It's just easier to hire an offensive head coach nowadays.
Yeah,
with the way that the rules are, and if you have a great we keep seeing Buffalo again and again, you know.
Yeah,
McDermott, defensive guy, hasn't been able to fix that offensive line. Hasn't been able to establish a run game, and when you're a defensive coordinator, that's usually what you hang your hat on for your offense. You know, we're gonna play good. We're gonna play good defense. We're going to run the ball, or we're just going to run down your throat. But running the ball 30 times with Josh Allen is not a run game.
Yeah, no, exactly. They got to try and find a good caliber running back in there to try and expand their offense there, because you can't just rely on Allen. He's done a lot for that team. And
but there are a lot of guys that are going to be cap casualties that are older running backs. So if you don't want to invest, you got guys like Joe Mixon. Barkley's up for a new deal. Dalvin Cook is a free agent. So
Zeke may be up for a new deal as well. If you want to, as a Cowboys fan, I will happily have another team take on Ezekiel Elliott, just as long as I was looking
at the not too early mock drafts for the 2023 NFL fantasy draft season.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Pollard is sitting at running back 13, going off the board in round 4.
Ooh, very nice, very nice. I like.
So he's in the running back dead zone. So
there you go. But yeah, it's interesting with the Eagles. We mentioned Steichen there earlier, and you mentioned Gannon as well with the Cardinals. I am kind of surprised the Cardinals went with a defensive-minded coach.
That's usually how it goes. They just fired their offensive guy, so swing back the other way to defense.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals have flip-flopped all the time. Like it's no surprise looking back at their history. I believe they went who did they go with after Ken Wisenhunt?
Yeah, it was. I know Bruce Arians was in there for a time, and he led some really good Cardinals squads through his time as coach. I believe Todd Bowles was a head coach there, if I recall.
Yeah, defensive guy. I might have replaced Ken Wisenhunt.
I think you're right. I think that's how it goes there. And then obviously we saw recently with now all of a sudden I'm forgetting his name. Yeah, exactly. And so it's interesting how up and down. It's not the greatest organization, I can tell you that. I think
it's fine, but the problem is, they've run into 3 really hot teams in the last 20 years. They had to play the Legion of Boom twice. Kyle Shanahan comes in. Yeah. Sean McVay is in Los Angeles. It's not that you're badly run. It's that everybody in front of you is just like, well, damn, I'm the little brother.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got an interesting scenario there, because now they're going into the off season. Kyler Murray looks like he's not going to come back till midway through the season, and even then, there's some questions about I think he's a very talented quarterback. It's just there are certainly some questions about commitment to the game and in terms of being able to work well with coaches. I guess I think some of that kind of has to do with, I think he had a really bad head coach, a guy who shouldn't have been a head coach in the NFL. And he was just kind of held back a bit.
Day one,
it's one of those. It's I heard it best. It was if you're the guy that's the sitting on the couch saying, yeah, that guy's not going to work out. All those guys that said that are feeling mighty proud. I was one of those people too. I was looking at the record in college, and it's you get so caught up sometimes in the latest trend ever since McVay got hired.
It doesn't help that his quarterback was Patrick Mahomes. You put Patrick Mahomes' resume beside Kingsbury, and you're like, something doesn't add up here.
Exactly. And so that's going to be interesting in Arizona. Just how that kind of goes there. I don't really see much change there either in terms of that organization, unless they make some drastic moves. And we'll see with their new GM where they kind of focus, because Steve Keim obviously no longer coming back for the Cardinals, and so those is kind of the big moves when it comes to the former Eagles.
I think if you're Gannon, you get 3 years, and if you don't, obviously you get your year here. That's a throwaway, because Kyler Murray probably not going to be ready till Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You get next year, because he's still not going to be completely healthy, and then if you're not winning by year 3, then you're probably out the door looking for work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. Kind of getting back into just the Super Bowl in terms of the Eagles defense just did not show up in that second half, and the Chiefs coming off the ankle of Patrick Mahomes, and what happened back in the first half with his ankle being rolled up. I don't know how much Toradol was used in the ankle to kind of get him all jacked up and fired up to play that second half.
He says none. He says that's all Patty.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it absolutely was. No Toradol whatsoever. He Patrick Mahomes, I mean, I think this is kind of a defining second half for him. I want to try to avoid like the big talking points when it comes to like these all-time great quarterbacks, you know what I mean?
Oh, you mean you don't want to be FS1, you don't want to have the Michael LeBron debate?
Yeah, no, not really.
Again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like LeBron broke the
ESP Gibby.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to do that. Like, it's like LeBron broke the all-time scoring record. Where does he stand against Michael Jordan? It's like, oh, for God's sake.
Who cares?
Who cares? I mean, let's appreciate some of the greatness of LeBron while he's there. You know what I mean? And we'll have that debate after he retires. And I mean, to me, it's still Jordan.
Don't like him as a person, but man, as a basketball player, whoo.
Yeah. Oh, he's all-time great basketball player. Like, no doubt. Like, to me, like, I don't want to get into the debate, but I will say we'll move on. We'll move on. I see. This is how they get us. You know what I mean? Because
like I just couldn't believe that they stopped the game for half an hour in the middle of the third quarter.
Yeah, that's it's kind of the new wave of the sports leagues now. You break a record, and all of a sudden there's a ceremony right in the middle of the game. You know what I mean? It's like
except for Brady threw the most completions in the NFL
true.
On Monday night. It was just like, oh, there you go. How's it going? All right, Bob's your uncle. Let's go.
All right, let's get back on the field. Yeah, that's fair. But I remember, I think when Breeze broke the touchdown record, they stopped the game for him. I think I could be wrong.
I think so. Like he got off the field, and the cameras might have been on him, but the game was still going on.
That's true. That's true.
Especially because they know that every asshole coming up is going to break the touchdown record.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just like it, again, trying to avoid big ESPN talking points, but I will say I think when it comes to really like on a big stage like Patrick Mahomes was in, I thought that second half was such a defining half for him in terms of being a guy like we all knew he could be a guy that you can never really count out, but I think especially at this stage with how much they were down. And obviously the ankle, it all just kind of rolled up together, no pun intended. It all kind of rolled together with into this moment where I think it's going to be a big part of his legacy as a guy who's able to lead a big drive, a big comeback, and key critical situations. I think to the run up the middle, the 26-yard run up to the middle, not the one where he rolled up on his ankle, but the one afterwards where he then gets up and he kind of, does like a little swivel. And he's like, all right, I'm good to go. Obviously, other factors kind of helped them as well. I think to the Kadarius Toney punt return as well, which put them into some prime position to score some touchdowns. They always get creative in the red zone when it comes to Andy Reid play calls, so we saw a little bit of that there. Some guys just literally wide open on certain plays. And so I think this is pretty much a defining second half for Patrick Mahomes. And I think you mentioned earlier with the stat that is the first quarterback since Tom Brady to win the Super Bowl MVP with less than 200 passing yards. I think that was one of the big reasons why, is because especially in that second half, it was pretty much the Mahomes show.
There was a couple things. He was the first quarterback to win MVP throwing less than 200 yards since Tom Brady.
Yep.
He was also the first quarterback to win MVP and Super Bowl MVP since Kurt Warner.
Yep, that's right.
And he's undefeated when he gets to bring his barber to the Super Bowl.
Yes, exactly.
Because obviously when at the COVID Bowl he wasn't able to bring his barber to Tampa there, so
that's probably the reason why they lost against Tampa.
Exactly. He was like, I just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah,
it wasn't my day, but
he was also incredible in that game too. Like just some of the throws were like some of the best looking incompletions I've ever seen when it came to some of those throws. But nonetheless, this was pretty much like in that second half, it was pretty much all Mahomes and in order to take over a game. And the Eagles again, they took a step back a bit. I think they kind of underestimated, because I think they thought that with the Mahomes ankle injury that they could step off the gas a little bit. And in a game like the Super Bowl, I think a lot of coaches have to realize, and I think it's why Doug Peterson won as a coach for the Eagles at that time, was you got to keep your foot on the gas at all times, no matter what. You cannot let your foot off the gas for one moment. And
well, I would have, like, you got the best receiver in the game, like in the Super Bowl game. I would have just thrown it up to AJ Brown a handful of times, and like, that guy's built differently, man. He's what, 6'5", 240 pounds. Like, who's stopping that? That's a monster.
Yeah.
It'd be like Space Jam on turf.
Exactly. Oh, speaking of the turf, we have to talk about that plane surface.
Oh yeah.
It was
okay. So I want to tell you right now. The NFL they invested 2 years into getting this field ready in Arizona. So they watered it, whatever. But the biggest issue I had with the field is, I found this out earlier. The guy that takes care of the field, 94 years old.
I did not know that. Oh,
94 years old.
Clearly on the cutting edge of technology at 94.
But obviously, it's hot in the desert. They're playing on grass, and you to come back to the script again. The NFL, they want the players to realize, well, the turf is better than the grass. So look what happened in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that the NFL did do this on purpose. But it's hot. Let's face it. It's hot in the desert, and you dropped a huge stage on it. Yep. In the middle, and you couldn't water it. But obviously guys are slipping and sliding all over the place. Did it affect the game? Probably. But are you telling me that the only reason that the Eagles lost to Patrick Mahomes is because the grass didn't get its 5 o'clock watering?
Yeah, it was definitely like, there were some moments when I think it was Pacheco that went in for the running touchdown, and he's about to do his touchdown celebration. He still slips. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was something wild. And obviously that's kind of been a big talking point in the NFL, is using a lot more natural grass when it comes to the fields. I think the big issue with that is with the big dome stadiums in terms of maintaining the grass, the natural grass in there, because you're not getting the sunlight, and you could maintain it, but
I don't know. So I don't know why they didn't use Arizona's system to be Arizona's grass to begin with, because Arizona, the way their stadium is built, like, you can actually like roll the entire turf out of the stadium to get its sunlight, and then it rolls back in automatically. Right. So like, the technology is there. So I don't know why they're letting the grass father there do his thing. Like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's bold of the NFL to try and experiment on the biggest game of their of the year. Obviously, you mentioned $800,000 went into that grass, and talk about the surface of the players wanting better turf, and we're seeing that grass turf mix to see how that goes, and obviously it didn't go too great. I wouldn't say that was the reason why the Eagles lost or the Chiefs won. I think it was just a nuisance for both of them. But that playing surface was definitely, like, there are some moments like, man, especially like I think with the Butker miss field goal as well. I think he kind of slipped a little bit off the paint from the field, and so it was not the greatest surface. I don't think we're going to see that make a return in future seasons.
Buddy's retiring there, so somebody else is in charge of the grass now.
There you go. The playing surface was not great. And now we have to go up to the holding call that wasn't. That was the big moment of the game with about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Very close game, really fun game, going back and forth in that fourth quarter. And then obviously we see James Bradbury going up against Juju Smith-Schuster, and we think it's going to be fourth down, if I recall the play.
Yeah, it would have been fourth down, and they would have been forced to punt. But the refs then call a holding call onto Bradbury, and on initial look, I will say I thought it was an absolutely atrocious call, and I thought an absolute buzzkill way
keep the Chiefs momentum. Obviously thereafter, Jerick McKinnon, he runs on the outside and does the smart thing of stopping before the 1 yard line. Funny enough,
the Eagles also did the smart thing to let him score. He just outsmarted them.
Oh yeah, totally. It's just the funny thing is, it's like you always see NFL media types yelling at the players when they try to stop, but then they accidentally slip in, and they always criticize them. I find it's like they're trying to do the right thing. It's really tough when you're going full speed. You realize that the team is trying to let you in, and you got to stop all that momentum. Like if you're a running back, you run a 4.3, a 4.4. That's a lot. You're going fast. It's tough to stop, when you realize it too late. And so it's easier said than done. And so I think it was good on McKinnon to recognize the situation and make that key stop on himself. But going back to that holding call, I looked at it a couple of times, and I think it was the right call in terms of, yes, it was holding, but in terms of what was being called throughout the game and what was missed, I think it was kind of like a worse timing thing. Not to say, I'm usually not a fan of like, in this situation, in this scenario, you make a call like that. It's like, if you see it, call it, right? If it's a holding penalty, like, you call it. No matter what the kind of game stands for. And yes, I know as a fan, it was anticlimactic to watch. But kind of looking at it again, I did see where the holding was. I just thought it was a little bit inconsistent when it came to some of the calls that were being let through. But what were your thoughts on the holding, non-holding? Did you think it was the right call was made, and where do you stand on it?
Well, I don't care if it was the right call or not. The only issue I had with it was the consistency of the game, the entire game. I was praising the refs. They're letting them play. We're not seeing any of these ticky-tack fouls. And then all of a sudden, we get this ticky-tack holding call, and I just catch the camera with Patty Mahomes looking over at the ref, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, the ref didn't throw that flag. Pat Mahomes threw that flag. Patty Mahomes is looking at him like, if you don't throw this flag, I am going to meet you outside in the parking lot, and we're gonna have an issue.
Yeah.
And Brady was famous for this too. Like you work the refs because they're a little bit starstruck. You're Pat Mahomes. You're like the next golden boy of the NFL, and here's Joe Ref making like $500,000. So like,
yeah,
that was my takeaway on it. It was it was like the same thing that we saw with Cam Newton, right? When Cam Newton wasn't old enough to get that call.
Yeah.
Well, Patty Mahomes is too rich not to get that call.
Yeah, exactly. He's reached a certain status in the NFL where he's going to get those calls.
We should just have Patty Mahomes have a yellow towel from now on.
Yeah. Hold it up over the referee like soccer.
He just throws the flag. He throws the ball downfield, reaches, gets his towel, and throws it. Holding. Yeah. What? Are you sure? Yeah, of course I'm sure.
I saw it with my own two eyes. Yeah. I and again, looking at that holding call again, I think when Fox showed the initial holding, the holding that they stopped on, I actually thought that wasn't the holding that was the call. I thought it was earlier in the route from Juju that was where the holding was. But nonetheless, a big time holding call and a bit of an anticlimactic way for the Super Bowl to end. Not enough talked about how Jalen Hurts' Hail Mary throw wasn't the greatest Hail Mary throw in the history of the NFL.
So again, back to your point on the grass. Like if you watch the tape back, he was leaning into his throw and kind of lost his footing there, and his shoulders killing him by this time.
Yeah,
he's already got the hurt right shoulder, and he just fell apart.
Yeah, exactly. And so overall, 38-35, the Kansas City Chiefs, they win their second Super Bowl in 4 years, and get ready to hear all the talking points for the next couple of months about how could the next dynasty be in the Kansas City Chiefs heading into this season, and how many Super Bowls can Andy Reid win with Patrick Mahomes? So get excited for that.
Turn off ESPN for the next,
yeah.
The worst part is that they'll just do it again with the next guy that comes along.
Exactly. Probably with Burrow, I would think, because I think Burrow's at that cusp. And I think we got a real cool rivalry coming up with Burrow and Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. I think that'll be really fun. But But nonetheless, that was the big game. Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl. As you mentioned, Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl MVP. Before we move off the Super Bowl, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the halftime show. I mean, that's why people are tuning into Gibby's football podcast, not to analyze or break down.
They want to know Gibby's thoughts on Riri.
Yeah, what did I think of Riri and her performance during the halftime show?
You don't lie to me, Gibby. You got your Fenty, right? You got your compact mirror.
Yes, I did. I was ready to go. So I watched it. First of all, I want to hear your thoughts because I think we both share the same opinion.
It was vanilla. I wasn't impressed with it. When it comes to the halftime shows, I hate everything. I
appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, I do. I hate everything. I thought Katy Perry was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite Super Bowl halftime show of all time was NSYNC and Aerosmith when they just killed it. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but that was a great Super Bowl halftime show. Obviously, Rihanna couldn't do a whole lot, being pregnant. So you're not gonna hold that against her. That's just the situation. I thought the hardest working guy was the guy that had to make sure that she had her coat, and the guy that kept hooking her on and off the stage. There, I was like, whoa, he's backup dancing, he's coordinating. I was like, this man deserves a raise.
Yes,
but this was not about her music at all. This was about her promoting her makeup line. Because after the halftime show, after she did take out her compact mirror there, Fenty, the Fenty search results on Google went up 853% in 2 hours.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And this is why the NFL doesn't pay people for halftime shows.
That's right. It's all about exposure. You know what I mean? Yeah. As radio people, as people that have to work in the creatively, we've heard about being paid in exposure many times. But nonetheless, I thought this was strongly okay. I thought this was a strongly fine
vanilla
halftime show. I forgot how many hits she had, and still.
Honestly, I was disappointed right away because I was just expecting like the whole stadium to be dark, and then all you see are everybody's phones go off, and you have na, come on,
Yes.
And she didn't even play S&M. So.
No, she didn't play S&M, nor Please Don't Stop the Music either.
Well, see, and she's got a little bit of the it's a little bit of her fault, but she got a little bit of the Faith Hill going on. Like, unfortunately, it is what it is. Like, she hasn't put on a show in 7 years since she went to Montreal, and she can't hit the high notes anymore. Obviously, she was pregnant, so she wasn't going to try. And 85% of her show was recorded.
Yeah, you could tell there was some lip syncing going on. I'll just straight up say it. It was pretty obvious.
I'd be okay if there was lip syncing going on.
Yeah.
The fact that there wasn't even an attempt to lip sync, okay? Like
literally pointing the microphone.
There, drinking her water, saying like
literally pointing the microphone to the crowd at one point. It was just must be a
fan of Lyndon Sluage.
Yeah, maybe.
Or the guy from Vancouver. What is his name?
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. I will not let you disrespect the good name of Lyndon Sluage. How dare you? Rihanna, I mean, the halftime show is fine. I will say, I was not expecting all the lights to play during her performance. Like, if you would have told me that all the lights was going to play, but not Please Don't Stop the Music, I would have told you were crazy. No. There was a part of me that's like, is Kanye actually going to come out here and perform at the Super Bowl halftime show?
And the books absolutely took you to the cleaners because you were able to bet on what would open the show. Yeah. And I swear nobody had that song playing. What was Bad Bitch Bad Money or something like that?
Bitch
like nobody had that.
Yeah, Bitch Better Have My Money was the opening line, opening song. It was nobody had that. I didn't think that was going to even play at all, to be honest. So, but nonetheless, so I thought it was a pretty okay halftime show. The reason why I bring it up is because I was shocked the amount of people that loved this.
Bots, man. That's the only explanation.
Bots.
When we see Gibby's podcast get them 100,000 subscribers tomorrow. Like,
it's the bots. It's not all the real people. Yeah, I bought for it. I bought the bots. That's what I did.
That's it.
But yeah, I was shocked to see, like, I said it was okay, and then the amount of people that reached out to me, like even close colleagues that were like, "How could you say it was okay? This was fantastic. Riri was at her best." And blah blah blah. And it was like, trust me, I've seen better halftime shows.
This is why I hate people and I hate everything, Gibby. You know, we're doomed as a society.
Yeah, I as I grow older and more grumpy, I start to understand your way of thinking a little bit more. I was shocked the amount of people that were like, "Oh, this was fantastic. I loved it." It's like, really? Like, go back and watch Prince's halftime show or Michael Jackson's halftime show.
Came out and he just stood there for a good 5 minutes with the crowd going wild.
Amazing. Bruce Springsteen had an awesome halftime show as well. Madonna, I'm a big Madonna fan. I just want to put that on the record. Love me some Madonna. I didn't like. I know she had the recent plastic surgery or whatever that led to her face not looking so great. But I will defend her when somebody releases a song as good as La Isla Bonita, like Madonna did. Yeah. I'm set for life, and everything else that comes with it with Madonna. I mean, music, fantastic song. Just Like a Prayer, another great classic. All throughout the decades, big Madonna fan. So I will not allow Madonna slander. I will not allow Madonna slander on the podcast.
I think you got to put this one right at the bottom with The Weeknd.
Yeah. I thought The Weeknd's was also like fine. I'm still dizzy from watching it. But nonetheless, I actually thought the Rihanna one was a little bit better than The Weeknd's one, but it was like very marginal difference. I think The Weeknd had a tougher time because of what he was able to pull off during the pandemic.
He had the COVID camera going on there.
Exactly. It's so
like between the Weeknd concert was shot with the exact same camera that they shot Spider-Man No Way Home or Far From Home or whatever the last one was.
Right. Yeah.
And now that movie. Yeah. I know this isn't a movie podcast, but that movie was so bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not good.
Oh jeez. So they shot so the actors weren't in the same room, obviously. Yep. So it was just like it was weird. The camera kept going back and forth, and you could kind of see that that they were. It was just a bunch of cutscenes, but
yeah, it is what it is. Nonetheless, yeah, that was the halftime show. Rihanna, I think it was right in the middle of the pack in terms of halftime shows. Seen better, seen much better, seen much worse. I mean, the worst ones.
Were you a fan of New Kids on the Block?
I'm a fan of New Kids on the Block. I've got Hanging Tough in the Spotify playlist. First
modern day Super Bowl.
For you?
No, that was that.
For them. Okay, yes, that's right. I got what you're saying. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, in terms of like that one was a good one. I like that one. In terms of like the lower tier ones, and this is like a running joke I have with another guest co-host on the show, Matthew Reisler, but we always take the time to talk about how much Maroon 5 stinks. Like they just stink.
That was a weird like that halftime show was weird. It looked like Adam Levine had just gotten out of prison or something.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, he took his shirt off. It was like, all right, sure. And they did not fully commit to the SpongeBob bit during the halftime show as well. And come on, guys. It's like, that was bad. The Black Eyed Peas one was also really bad.
Well, I don't know what Fergie does, but every time Fergie gets center stage, it's bad.
It's Fergie-licious, baby. That's what it is.
I still remember the NBA players laughing at her.
Oh God, yeah. She was singing the national anthem, right? Oh,
yeah. Like Draymond Green couldn't contain himself. Even Curry was like,
yeah. Oh, jeez, that was something else. I remember that too. That was quite something. But it's firmly in the middle of the pack for me for this Rihanna halftime show. So that's pretty much anything from the Super Bowl. I wanted to quickly mention, because it kind of broke yesterday, following the Derek Carr stuff, he got released. He declined a trade over to the Saints, but he still wants to go to the Saints. I believe it's because as part of the deal, he would have taken less money. And so with that in mind, I think he said, you know what, just cut me. In the case of Derek Carr, the The initial teams interested, the Saints, obviously. The Panthers are apparently a name that's also interested in Derek Carr. The Jets. Where do you think Derek Carr's final landing spot is as he hits the free agent market?
I mean, the number, like, sounds weird to say, but, you know, any free agent quarterback, they should want to go to the Jets, you know? Like, that team is... I know you have to work with Nathaniel Hackett, but your receivers are just they're second to none, you know?
Yeah. They got a good squad there. It's a young core there as well that can be slotted in. So I don't disagree with you. I still think the Saints are a strong contender for Carr. The Saints are in such a weird spot where it's like I'll
tell you why the Saints aren't in contention for Derek Carr.
No, you don't think so?
No, the Saints are about $55 million over the salary cap for next season.
But here's the thing. The salary cap doesn't exist. That's how the Saints have been able to move from year to year.
No. See, you got it all wrong, okay? Well, the salary cap is, it exists. And every dollar you spend is going to come due at some point. You can kick it down the road as long as you want.
Yeah.
Eventually, you are going to pay the NFL that dollar back.
Yes.
And that's how that works.
Yes. But the salary cap still doesn't exist. Kick it even further down the can, Danny T. We're moving forward. Who cares about the salary cap? By the time that you have to worry about it, the salary cap will be manageable. Think about the future. Look at how it's going for the Rams when it comes to draft picks. I mean, just
when Sean McVay retires, that's it. You know, like that. Like they are going to owe so much money to the NFL.
Yeah,
they're going to be like, all right, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's pay this back, and they're not going to have the first overall draft pick because they've already traded that. But
yeah, it's going to be it's all in a win now mentality for the Rams, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But on Carr, yeah, I mean, the Jets are an enticing option, and you heard their name being circulated for a bunch of the top quarterbacks, whether it be Aaron Rodgers, that's who's going on a darkness retreat. So good for him.
Sounds like you're hungover, man.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
You went on a bender and you're hungover for the next 4 days.
Yeah, it's like a darkness retreat. Some people would like to go on a vacation. He wants to go on a darkness retreat. Hey, if that's how he wants to clear his mind, so be it. It's his business. But I was just kind of just on a personal level.
We're running out of quarterbacks in the draft though, because unless you're taking a shot on Tagovailoa there in the draft, you're going to get one of these veteran guys.
Yeah, talking about Talia Tagovailoa, right?
Yeah,
the brother from Maryland. But it's gonna be something to keep an eye on. But I just want to mention that as well because I figured that's a quarterback that's a starter in this league.
Oh yeah.
And so he'll probably garner some value heading into the offseason. But speaking of the offseason, I think that's gonna do it for Gibby's Football Podcast. This is the season finale. How about that? We'll call this the season finale.
All right. Season starts again March 4th, I think. So
that's right. And so good to see what we'll do when it comes to future episodes. I could definitely tell you this, not going to be weekly. I going to take a break as well when it comes to the weekly shows.
Are you saying you don't want to do the 1.0 mock draft and turn on the tape?
Oh God,
no! Every Wednesday at 1:00, Gibby, we got to take down ESPN. You know,
Jesus, absolutely.
I can be your Todd McShay.
Oh my God, yes.
I'll be your Mel Kiper. Okay, I turn on the tape about it.
Yeah, he's a 5'5" guy. Got good feet. But no, I'm not going to be doing mock drafts every week. We are going to do some NFL draft coverage, and we'll look at some players and whatnot. But I'm going to take some time off the next couple of weeks when it comes to the football podcast. The episodes over the offseason.
WrestleMania coming up.
Exactly. And so I got to focus on the This Is Wrestling podcast as well. That's another weekly show. And so in terms of weekly episodes, it's probably not coming back until the new season starts, but we'll still have episodes when it comes to we'll talk about, I think we'll talk about the start of the CFL season. I've got a guy in mind when it comes to talk about the start of the CFL season. Definitely the NFL draft. We'll be doing some draft coverage. Free agency, obviously that will be big. We'll definitely have a free agency episode. So there'll be episodes. Don't worry. It's just keep subscribed to the podcast feed. It just won't be weekly. It'll just be, sporadic. We'll talk about some of the big highlights, and we'll try and do as best we can when it comes to draft coverage. But that's
what you should do, Gibby. You should make like a big, make a countdown webpage. So you can count down to the next episode.
Oh, I like that. Build up some intrigue. I like it.
This comes back to the NFL needs to hire us for marketing.
That's right. You see, there you go.
I don't have any like clickable links on it. Just be like, coming soon, and
create intrigue
and just spam it to everybody.
Exactly. See, this is why I have you on for these great ideas. So with that, that finishes up the 2022-2023 season of Gibby's Football Podcast. Thank you, Danny T, for coming on for a bunch of episodes. And I want to thank a whole bunch of the contributors that have come on here, ranging from, I'll try and credit everybody off the top of my head here, but Mike Sarkeesian, Steve Bunda, Matthew Vernon. Let me think of some of the other ones. We've had a lot. Matthew Reisler, of course, has been on a few times. I gotta talk about as well. Who was on? Nick was on as well. I want to thank Nick for coming on.
He's made it because he's just Nick.
Yeah, he's Nick from work on
everybody's got their last name, but he's just Nick.
He's Nick, man. He's my guy.
He's just Nick.
Yeah, Nick. Nick from work on Twitch. You can go check out his Twitch streams there. He's a funny guy. Mike, of course, how can I forget the man with no excuses, Jonathan Skuse, coming on this show and talking about with me some football. He's a big fan of yours, by the way, Danny T.
How can you not be?
I mean, that's why I have you on every week, He's a big fan of yours. So, Jonathan Skuse as well. Thank you for coming on. Who else have I had on? I'm going to try and properly credit everybody, but, those are the names off the top of my head that, have helped me out throughout the season when it comes to whether filling in as a guest co-host or whatever. They've really helped me out a lot. You as well, Danny T. And so I appreciate everybody who's been a contributor to the show and has helped throughout the season. We're gonna continue on with the show. The podcast is still continuing. Do not worry. It's just gonna be a little bit more sporadic in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to take some time off from the show, and then we're going to be back probably for the free agency period once that kick starts. And then we'll have some NFL draft coverage going. I have been watching some tape. I've been watching the guys that you need to know, like your CJ Strouds and your Bryce Youngs and your Will Levises. When it comes to the QB side of things, Bijan Robinson we mentioned as well, the running back, the top running back, some of the tackles as well. Pete Skoronowski from Kent State, I believe. Kent State, Kansas State.
Weird that you go with him and not the defensive tackle out of Georgia. He's going to be the number one pick.
That's right. No, we're an offensive line respecter show. Okay, that's what we are. Talk about the linebacker there as well from Georgia, and so we'll be back rolling, but going to take some time off here in the next couple of weeks. So thanks everybody that's been tuning in each week to Gibby's Football Podcast for all the latest when it comes to the NFL. We got some more exciting stuff coming up in the next few months, and so should be a lot of fun. So keep subscribed to the podcast. You never know when an episode's going to drop. I also use this as sort of like another episode I'm very happy with. I talked with Callum Fraser, talking about his new book, about Brian Fraser, colleague of ours that I went to school with and worked with at CFRA, who passed away from leukemia, and new book about his experience with leukemia and just his rise when it came to blood donations across Canada, which is just was just incredible to see when that happened. One of my favorite interviews I've ever done. It was just two guys just talking about a friend, and so you can listen back to that as well, and of course buy the book as well, and show your support there. So you never know when a random interview will drop in about a random topic on this podcast feed. It's kind of more of a creative outlet for me. It's more of a hobby podcast as opposed to anything else. So all that rambling aside, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thanks again, Danny T, for coming on. We'll see you probably for free agency frenzy in the NFLs. But thanks everybody for tuning in for Gibby's Football Podcast for the last couple of weeks. We'll see you in the new season.